That's how it goes, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that Jews in the media. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know songs.
It's a story about two Jews in the media who get thrown out of their homes and asked never to return. And
I don't know that show.
no, it sounds like a boring show. Never mind. So
not much. How you doing, dude?
good, but now I have that song running through my. Damn it! I'm gonna have to go watch Odd Couples just to get that out of my head.
I really liked that. I like the.
You were pointing at something.
No, I liked the Walter Matthau Jack Lemmon relationship because they were really friends in real life.
I never saw the movie. I've only
or the show.
I've only seen the TV show.
I don't think it was them in the TV show.
It was not.
But
it was that guy and that other guy.
No, but they were.
I can't remember either one of their names right now. Tony Curtis?
Couple.
No, not
Maybe?
Tony Curtis.
I
No,
don't know.
no, Tony Randall.
Miriam?
No, we're not doing that. Told you. No, I'm pretty sure it's Tony Randall and the guy that played Quincy.
Jason Bateman. Jennifer Lawrence. Hume Cronin.
Did you ever see Quincy?
No.
All right, then.
I don't know what Quincy is. I know Quincy, Massachusetts.
You don't know what Quincy is?
No.
Wow.
You could tell me.
Quincy was one of the worst shows ever conceptualized, I think. It was about a coroner, okay? Los Angeles, maybe.
Coroner? Like somebody from Corn?
A coroner, someone who the state,
somebody who corons.
Yeah, someone who corons, does things with cadavers.
They call them coroners, but you ever see them corn? Oh, there they go.
So he would perform he would go to crime scenes and do autopsies on the body and stuff, right? But then he would actually go out into the field and investigate the crime, okay? Far beyond the requirements, the duty of a regular coroner, probably to the point where I'm sure he would have been tainting evidence.
Well, what do you mean? Like he went far beyond his duties?
Well, his duty is to cut open a body and try and determine medically what happened to the body. Okay.
I think the coroner just determines if the person is dead or not. I think that's the pathologist, the one who does the autopsy.
Maybe he was a criminal pathologist.
I don't know. Maybe they cross over. Maybe the coroner is also doing autopsies.
I'm pretty sure in the show he was just the coroner, and maybe they gave him even more duties outside of his responsibility. But he used to go out and would do the job of like a police detective would go. He would go out and try and solve the crime, which.
Oh, okay. So he takes the evidence as evidence that he's supposed to deal with,
he would go out and he would get called to the crime scene, and then he would go to the club and start asking waitresses and people questions where the person was last seen, and he would go talk to their parents, and and he would solve the crime. He would find the guilty person and somehow trick them, or I don't remember how he would.
It doesn't sound like a bad premise for a show.
Well, it's a pretty stupid. In my opinion, it's a pretty stupid premise, considering that that's not anywhere close to how being realistic.
No, but if you could work from that and say, okay, so this guy is, he's going off on his own, he's on a mission from Gad, to find out what happened. It's more about how they find out what happened than who is finding out what happened in these shows. It's not really NCIS. I don't care who NCIS is.
This was.
I just care about them going after this and the analysis and understanding what happened. How they get to that is irrelevant to me. If it's a guy investigating something, I think investigative.
I think it's
shows
very.
Like that
I think it's
are
very realistic for the coroner to be going out and taking down armed gangs. Of murderers.
If the guy has the ability to, if that's
why the hell would he have the ability?
Because he was scripted to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was written to. That's the point. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I care about what's actually happening. The guy is going after a murderer. He gets the murderer, but it's the story, how he goes about it and everything. That's what's interesting. I don't care who it is,
unless he's Monk.
No, Monk was a stupid show because of the music and the.
Oh, but who cares about the music? It was how
up.
he got to where he was going and how he figured out how he was.
No, it's a. It's just stupid and I don't like shows with that kind of music.
You hate the show because you didn't like the music.
Well, it was also silly and the comedy was boring, not funny. It was tedious. I didn't find it entertaining.
Well, lots of people,
for many reasons.
Lots of people disagreed with you.
Well, lots of people are stupid,
especially you.
But I'm the one who didn't like it because I like intelligent shows like 24. and Rick and Morty, which is actually a really intelligent show.
See, but 24,
no, 24 was
24 cool. is more realistic and is more plausible. Okay,
I don't care if it's realistic.
The coroner going
it's
out
cool.
and solving crimes.
It's cool seeing because
nothing ever blew up. No one got tortured on Quincy.
Then that's boring.
Yeah. Dude, it was the 70s.
No. I'm not saying that show is good. I'm saying the concept, like having a show. If you got a good cast, a good script, a good dialogue, shot well, the music was right, you could actually make a good show out of that. If everybody was an idiot and terrible.
The Odd Couple TV show.
Then it's terrible.
Matthew Perry found out The Odd Couple is canceled. The harshest.
Yeah, Matthew Perry is alive now. I don't think he was.
No, he was in the reboot of it, which was really bad. But now, now just to get a little slightly off of topic, it says he found out it was canceled in the harshest. Damn it! Now I want to find out why. I want to find out what happened to him. How did he find out?
Did I ever talk about these cups? I like these cups for some reason. I don't know why. I never had them growing up, but they're like growing up cups.
Plastic cups?
Yeah, it's like these it's not a disposable cup, but with this matte finish. I remember these from my friends' houses, but we never had these. But they're my favorite cups here at my house. We have glasses, of course, but I like these more. I don't know.
I enjoy big, gigantic cups, like.
But it's something about the texture, like putting your mouth on the glass,
the plastic cup you would get from like a 7-Eleven, or like if you went to Burger King, the big plastic cup you would get with the
64 ounce.
With and it usually came with like a movie picture on it.
Is it 128 ounces now?
204. No, I have no. The bucket. It's a garbage can.
What?
It's an aluminum garbage can with a lid. You drill a hole in it. Put in a plastic roll. If you use it as a straw,
just carry a bathtub around with you.
Yes.
Or like one of the lawn fertilizer trucks with the big tank on the back.
Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. I'm positive that's who the Odd Couple are. Jack Klugman was
oh yeah.
Was Quincy.
Ah, okay.
There was an Asian guy who played Sam.
Now, was he actually Asian, or was this like some
No, he was
some
actually
white guy.
No, an actual Asian guy.
In like Asia face.
An actual Asian guy
actually
played
holding
Sam.
his eyes like this.
His head Scotch tape pulled like that.
No, his hands.
Yes,
his
Quincy.
hands just like that. Oh, yes,
yes, Quincy. I'm sorry, that was very racist and extremely
we're
funny.
talking about how racist we were. I think it's incredible how racist we were. I mean, even with
we were talking about Jack Klugman and Tony Randall and that.
And then we were talking about the Asian one, and I was asking if the Asian one was.
You said yes, racism things.
I know. I was asking if he was one of those like a white,
I'm sorry. Did you just say was he one of those Asians?
Asians like they have in movies from back in the day, where it was some white guy, in Asian. Who was that? Somebody from like the 50s or 50s, 40s. Jewish comedian. He would do blackface also. Did blackface. He did Asia. He did all of those, and it wasn't even seen as racist then. It was. you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, he did.
The guy. Miriam will know. She'll tell us in a minute.
No, he did. She might not be on. I didn't tell people we were going to be on tonight. Nobody knows. That's why nobody's here yet.
Well, I wrote our names, so it knows we are live.
Yes, but generally I do it like in the afternoon, early morning.
Right.
And people wake
generally,
up.
or you have done it last time.
The last few times.
But
it became that thing that I did.
That thing that you did.
Mm-hmm. Those times.
So I was on my way home from work the other day, and I drive past Kikar Rabin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So I'm driving down, and I see this yellow tent, and it looked like a canopy, two canopies sitting attached to can of bees, 2 cans of bees. Sitting there in Kikar Rabin, right next to the bike path. So, I'm on my bike, and I'm always screaming at people to get off the bike path. And I didn't have my headphones on, so this girl that was at the booth, also wearing a yellow shirt, came up to me, and I was curious what it was, because usually there's special events. I've never seen any cans of bees just like set up there on the Kikar like that. So I kind of slowed down, and she called me over, and I wasn't really in a rush, so I said, what's going on here? She says, how are you? Tries to belabor like getting to
Can
anything.
I just interrupt you for 1 second? How long have you lived in this city?
About 10 years.
The last thing I would do when someone flagged me down or had a can of bees set up, would be to stop or even blink in their general direction.
No, I was kind of intrigued by who these guys were that they have. I think you need a permit to set up there, because if not, it would be packed always with tons of booths like this. But there's never any booths, so there was one. So I was intrigued by why this was there. So she calls me over, and I said, yeah, fine. What's going on? I didn't even get off of my bike, but I pulled next to her, and she's belaboring, just making small chat for suspiciously long. Because I knew that
small chat.
How are you? What's going on? You're from Israel. You're nonsense. Nothing of any relevance to anything. Talking about the weather, stupid shit. So she eventually I said to her, okay, but what's going on here?
She was Israeli?
Yeah. But she spoke English. What's going on here? She said, so what do you know about Scientology? I think I did mention this last week, briefly.
First time hearing of it.
And I said, you really don't want to get into this with me. This is really pointless for you. She says, no, I've heard it all. And she really wanted to go on about it. She really wanted to push on, wanted to understand what I knew. And, I don't know who this was, but years ago, somebody had snuck one of the e-meters. It's this thing that you grab. It's basically just a conductivity check, tester. That's it. It's very simple. It's not testing for spirits. It's not testing for ghosts or aliens or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be testing for. So it was just that. I just used that. That was my only argument with her. She said, "What do you?" She asked me to sum up Scientology in one word.
What was your own?
Hang on. She asked me to sum up Scientology in one word, and I just said money, because I don't know any other religion where you have to pay to get to the next level, and then you start reaping the benefits. I think that's kind of ridiculous, and I think that's beyond going into L. Ron Hubbard and beyond going into just, a fucking sci-fi author Isaac Asimov, somebody creating a religion based on this guy who was talking about alien craft that was similar to the craft that they had in the day, which were the DC-9. So
remember,
he's talking about DC-9.
If you want to be a good
today,
Christian,
he would have been talking about
if you want to be a good Christian
A30s.
and go to heaven, you got to give 1/3 of your pay to the church.
Where is that written?
In the church.
Inside of like on the
Probably
walls?
in every church. But no, that's what the church says. You're supposed to give like 1/3 of your tidings or whatever to the church.
So, but that's not in order to move up in the echelons of
go to heaven.
In the higher. No, I'm talking about the hierarchy of the church itself, of the Church of Scientology. I'm not for somebody to become pope. He doesn't have to give away millions of dollars. That's
you ever been in a synagogue on the high holidays? Those seats are very expensive.
That's not going to okay.
It's all about look.
Yeah.
When you say organized religion, it's all about money. When it comes down to it, to be good at your religion,
but
you got to give money.
So Scientology was created now, more recently, and its greed, its level of greed is a lot more blatant. It's a lot more on the nose. So she said, what do you mean? Listen, sweetheart, I know I've seen the schematics of the e-meter. I don't have time for your bullshit. And I just drove off.
Did you actually call her sweetheart?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. And then I just drove off. I didn't have the energy. I thought I had the energy to get into a debate with her. But when I saw like this look of what's the word I'm looking for? Like susceptible complacency, sort of like this look like, this is what I'm told. I need to do what I am told. If you what should I do? Like, if you have something better to tell me what to do, tell me what to do. Just didn't have any idea what was going on, and I didn't have any energy for it, so I just bounced. I couldn't deal with it. But I thought it was funny, like, this day and age, with everything that we know about Scientology and how ridiculous and silly it is, how are people still falling into it? Seth MacFarlane, one of his good friends, from what I knew, or from what I thought I knew, was Giovanni Ribisi, who is a Scientologist. Have you ever seen Family Guy?
I've heard of it.
How are they friends? How does this happen? I just don't get it. Like, it's just so silly. I have a hard time feeding into it. Thoughts and prayers?
No.
I don't know.
Well, do you believe? Do you believe in God?
That's a tough question. Do I believe in an all-seeing and all-knowing conscious being?
Do you believe in
no.
a higher power?
It's hard to say. I've not seen any proof for myself. So I can't say no, and I can't say yes.
So
I've never seen proof otherwise. Everything I've seen has an explanation.
You are open to the possibility of, is what you're saying.
Well, so far I've seen no evidence. Everything has an explanation.
So then you
far.
don't believe.
I don't. Not right now.
Well, then you see how easy that was? You don't believe.
But I could.
Very simple.
If something were presented to me, like some facts, some proof, some that would lead me to.
Yes, but this is what we're talking about is belief. Do you believe in a God?
Now it's a God.
Well.
Aha. Buddha? No, he wasn't a god. Was he a god?
I don't know.
They considered him a god. Krishna? Vishnu? Elephant dude?
Do you believe in
no,
God?
No.
So you don't believe in God?
I haven't had any proof yet.
Okay.
It's hard to believe in something without anything backing it up.
Well,
And to depend on that,
Well, that's what.
what would I?
No, see that's there's a difference between being proven something and a belief.
Well, that's faith. But based on what again? What is that faith? Where does that faith come from? Hope. Just I hope that I think it's more of a hope that there is something controlling everything, so that we can feel okay. I don't. I think that's counterproductive to me.
Do you believe, Do you believe that Jerusalem is important to the Jewish people?
Absolutely.
Why?
Time.
Just for historical.
Yeah.
We built it, therefore it's ours.
Yeah.
You don't believe in any religious significance to it whatsoever.
Just in case, I'll put it that way. Just in case, I want us to have it.
So
and
it's
that's,
not necessarily
and
that you
my
don't
hope.
believe.
That's the extent of my hope
you're
right now.
You're playing the fence right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have room for the belief.
I do. I have room for the belief. I've just not been given anything to make me believe yet.
So, but you understand how some people could even look at that belief, that slight belief that there's a possibility of that there could be something, as being ridiculous.
Sure.
Yet you're so quick to shit on someone else's belief in the possibility of what you consider to be their made-up pretend thing.
He was a fiction writer. He was a fiction writer. He was writing fiction knowingly. He knew that this was not true.
I'm not.
Other people said, "No, this is true." This is a different ballgame entirely. This is people taking a fucking a story, a comic book, and making that law. That is stupid.
But isn't all religion just a bunch of men sat around and took a bunch of folklore and stories and put them together and built a system, a faith system, and a Bible out of these
much
stories?
Less documented than what we have going on with the Church of Scientology now. We know exactly who this guy was. There's pictures of him. This is a concrete individual. We know who this person was. This isn't, a great grandfather of somebody who was written about in one manuscript, in one document, one place. There are interviews with him. He's spoken. We know the guy. This is not a secret. It's not just like somebody who was written in folklore. This is somebody who lived. When did he die?
No idea.
He died probably when you were alive. I don't know.
No idea.
He died in 1986. He died in 1986. We were all alive while he was alive. This is not some figment from eons ago. This is somebody from 20 years ago, 32 years ago.
Okay, so it's the same thing. It's just a little more recent.
Yeah,
in 1,000 years from now, it'll be no different. In 1,000 years from now, it'll be no different. One will be, this one's 2,000 years old. This one's 1,000 years old.
But the Church of Scientology doesn't really preach anything in the same way. It's more like a social club than a church, is how it operates. And you have membership fees, and those membership fees get you higher up into the, into the nicer room with I don't know, sexier waitresses. Who knows?
Well, the more money you pay for the seats in synagogue, the more closer up to the front or closer to the door they are.
No. This is you pay this amount and you get to this level, and then in another few months you pay times 8 to get to the next level, and then times 8 again. Well, no, probably not times 8. But there's only like 5 or 6 or maybe 8 levels and the highest level, it's way beyond synagogue. This is, come on, don't confuse this. This is not a different area in the room. This is an entire different. You are bringing yourself into a different social class. It's not just sitting in a different place in the synagogue. It's similar to a caste system. You know, the caste system in India, which was abolished, which put people on different levels from like the workers and the employees up to the CEOs, and like CEOs wouldn't talk to the lower employees on a friendly level. It's like they're in different classes, like a different species. I think the Scientology is a little bit more extreme in the differences.
Or,
but I've never been to the
maybe
church.
He was touched by these thetans, or I think they're called the spirits or whatever, and they showed him the picture. You know, they gave him this information. You know, and this is what he based his writings on. I mean, maybe you're putting the chicken before the egg. Maybe the egg in this came first.
I think,
and then he became a fiction writer. Maybe his science fiction wasn't so.
I think, and I'm pretty confident that you do too, that didn't happen.
Who am I to say?
You.
Is it any different than some guy going up on a mountain looking for a fucking sheep, seeing a burning bush that doesn't burn, and starts talking to him?
Yes.
You're right. One story is way more believable than the other. They're both completely. I would have to be on so many drugs.
Do you really believe in the Scientology? Like, do you believe in that?
Not at all.
Or are you just playing devil's advocate?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it more interesting. Someone's got to take the other side. I don't know. But then again, I'm not so sure that I believe in religion in any other possibly made. You know, I'm trying to look at this from how would someone who doesn't believe in religion or God at all look at the slight belief that you might have? They would look at it the same way. They would say, "Well, dude, the guy went up on a fucking hill to go look for his sheep and started talking to a bush that was on fire." And then he comes down.
Yeah, they're beautiful fairy tales.
And he throws a stick on the ground and it turns into a fucking snake. And it eats the other a snake that was once a staff that the other guys threw on the thing. And then the river split. Come on, man. You're taking some peyote, right? And then going out into the fucking desert and coming back with this story, right? I mean, come on. That's what they would have to fucking think of Moses coming.
I think there was a lot of peyote
coming down and
telling
a lot of cactus in the desert. You know, something out there, I'm sure.
Rob Zombie. Oh wait.
As a matter of fact, I was on a Jeep trip in the desert, and one of the desertologists, was telling us that there's a bush and you could fucking soak it in tea, and it's a hallucinogenic, and it grows naturally.
Was it ayahuasca?
I have no idea what it was. Here in Israel, it grows in the desert.
I don't
here.
know.
He said the Bedouin know what it is.
Well,
we were a bunch of 20-something young 20-year-old volunteers. The guy wasn't about to be specific about which bush in the general vicinity could be turned into a hallucinogenic drug. So I don't exactly know what it was.
It was a different time.
Start taking, it was before the phone.
Burning everything.
Everyone today would have been taking pictures of the phone.
It's kind of unwise for him to have said that, because there's probably some bushes that if you do that to could kill you. So he basically said, just try this on everything out there. The world is your oyster.
Here's a big pot of water. Start throwing shit in.
And then you just all of you end up dead. That's it. You're dead.
That's right.
And it's all his fault.
I'm pretty sure that was the night after, or that was the night before that. I'm pretty sure we almost got ran over by a wild herd of camels.
Well, that was strike one. The world against you. That was strike one. Maybe they'll get it on the second. You
ever seen a herd of camel running, fucking hauling ass across the desert, right through the middle of your campsite?
Oh yeah. No.
I could tell you some funny stories about that night.
Where was that? Was that
Maktesh Gadol.
I think that's actually closer to where, because we did camp out next to one of the Bedouin villages, like one of the trendy Bedouin villages. You know, there's the ones that are like right off the highway, and they have all the like the Native American shops.
Yeah, they
like,
charge you like
outside
1,000 shekels for 2 nights in a fucking tent.
Exactly. So we went on there. We went there with our opan. So we had 90 people here at the Bedouin tent. But we went on this. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But we went on this hike. We got there early in the morning. Like 8. We left the kibbutz at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and we got there at like 9 or 10, maybe 8 or 9. And we went on this like 8-hour hike. It was amazing. It was so much fun. It wasn't like it wasn't hard. Just like strolling upwards through this desert, through this wadi.
Strolling upwards through this
Well,
desert.
it's not really climbing. Like, we're not like grabbing on anything, but we're strolling in an upwards direction, on an upwards gradient. It made sense, right? You understood what I was saying.
Well, I would never have put it like that, but sure.
We were casually strolling. We weren't like marching. It wasn't like we were 90 people. They knew that we were not going to race up to the top of it. Some people were running ahead.
So you were on a
But
hike and it was going
along.
uphill.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it was at the end of the 8 hours, we were quite high. What's so funny?
I have no idea.
So we got to the top, and then we took the buses back to back down to the bottom, and we slept. You know, this is obviously later in the evening now. We ate some sheep's heads or whatever the fuck they fed us, and we went to, you know, played some games or whatever. Went to bed in the tent, freezing cold. Woke up in the morning. We were supposed to climb Masada. That did not happen.
Why not?
Because of the cold, because of the hike that we had just done, and then we slept in the cold. A lot of people's muscles were just frozen, and we couldn't do anything. So we couldn't climb. So we ended up, and the kibbutz actually footed the bill for this. But they paid for for cable car passes for like half of us, because most of us couldn't, if not even more than half. So we couldn't make because it was supposed to be the snake path. The Roman path I could have done probably, but the snake path is just too long and in the sun, and just moving the legs was just not an option at this point. So we took the cable up, and legs started to feel better throughout the day, but that was fun.
I have a
like
not entirely indifferent story.
Do tell.
When I was a kibbutz volunteer, we took a Jeep trip, and I took several Jeep trips, and one of them we were going through the Mektesh Ramon, and we were going down there a lot.
That is the Ramon crater.
And the first night we stayed by the welcome center in what the hell's the name of that city there? When you start
Not Kiryat Gat.
No.
Mitzperom?
Mitzperamon.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a bridge that went from the welcome center to the other side of the road, and then there was this structure. Is the best structure
Like the clothing store?
They had like 4 walls like this, and it had part of a roof. So it was like there was a building that had obviously fallen apart, but this wasn't a ruin, like an ancient ruin. This was like a 50-year-old building or something like that had just fallen apart, whatever. And we stayed in it. Okay, it is now. If you go to Mitzperamon and you look there, it is now the Bereshit Hotel. Okay, it is now a very expensive hotel that in the cheapest time of the year was going to cost you like 2,200 shekels for a night.
Oh yeah, no, it is. How much? What is it in dollars there? Do you know?
It's
a lot of dollars.
Something like $250 to $300 a night in the cheap for the cheap room on the cheap time of year.
Yeah, no, I know it's like the most expensive spa resort thing.
Yeah, no, it's very expensive. So I stayed. The joke is that I stayed there. When we were volunteers, we stayed there, but it was really just an abandoned building at the time. And again, you're on the top of the fucking you're on the top of the crater, okay. At night in a building that has no walls. It's got like this like the inner walls, but like the outside is all exposed. Okay, with parts of a roof. So if it did rain, we probably would have stayed mostly dry. Okay. So we wake up the next morning, fucking freezing cold. Everyone's in pain and everything else. So to keep warm, we decided to play a game of kick the plastic egg thingy. You know how like the eggs come in the you get a dozen eggs. It has like the little things for the eggs. So we found out like a piece of it, like it was like about like this big. Okay, just like it would have fit like about 4 eggs, 5 eggs.
Plastic or like the rubber, the paper, like compressed paper things.
I feel like it was some type of plasticky thing.
Like the styrofoam ones.
Maybe like a styrofoamy, more, but more like heavier, more dense. Like, I don't think it was actually.
Was it
for
a Crembo
eggs.
tray?
I don't think it was for eggs.
It was a Crembo tray, wasn't it?
I don't think so. I remember it being white and the Crembo.
I remember it being.
You weren't there. And there was like 10 of us, and we were all like huddled around, just like jumping up, trying to kick this thing back and forth to each other, just to get ourselves moving. And then we got in jeeps and drove down to Eilat across the desert, and it was kind of painful.
I actually did, because I haven't ever been on a jeep tour, but I was up in the Kinneret.
How were you not and was on the same time? You weren't, but then you said you were.
Right. I thought I never took a jeep tour, but then I remember that I did.
Ah. I thought you said technically I haven't.
I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it was near the kibbutz where they have the artillery factory underground. You know what I'm talking about.
That's near Rehovot.
Is it?
Yeah, but they made the bullets underground.
They made the bullets underground?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's like Nessiona.
So maybe it was, I don't know. Because I know we were there, and then we went on a jeep tour.
Love that place, by the way.
Very cool. Very cool. I like the I like the Breaking Bad entrance. Because under the washing machine or behind the washing machine.
Did they have that in Breaking Bad? I don't remember.
Yes.
It's been a while. I've seen lots of shows since then.
The entrance to the Mega Lab, as it was called in on YouTube.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was cool. I like that kibbutz.
That place was very cool.
And the sun room or the UV room.
So you see, yes.
So you would look like you've been working in the fields. Oh,
now you just ruin it for people that might go there. So you might as well explain the whole thing. During the war, there was this kibbutz, and during the war, they had a secret factory that made bullets, and they had workers on the kibbutz that it was very secretive. Okay, their wives didn't know. Nobody knew. Okay, if you worked inside the factory, I don't think they were like really socialized with the other people. They kind of kept to themselves, if I remember the story correctly. Like they tried not to mingle or whatever. You know,
I don't actually know. I thought I didn't think
because they were supposed to go out. They were
about
supposed to be out in the fields. No, nobody knew about this. I remember them saying that because these people were supposed to be out in the fields, but not with the other people that were working in these fields. They were the people that were working. They always worked together. No one ever switched on to this shift or whatever, and they always worked there. But it was very secret government work actually. And they would go into the laundry, and the one of the big washing machine moved to the side. And there was a stairway down, but now they were underground all day, and they didn't want to raise suspicion. Everyone else is a nice dark brown from working in the fields all day, and here they
just
are,
like Jesus,
this pale white. And they were supposed to be out in the field. So what they had basically the tanning booths.
Because Jesus was brown.
Yes, he sure was. Depends on who you ask. Jesus was black, depending on who you ask.
I wasn't black, but he was the same color as everybody else that was living in that area.
According to some people, he was an African. He was a black man.
Oh, they say he was African.
Of course.
No, I thought people were saying he's black as in he is not white, but he is darker than white.
No. Some people would
because he was Middle Eastern.
Some people are dumb enough to refer to Jesus Christ as what they would refer to as an African American, meaning he's black.
African American or African?
Well, as I said, some people would call him. They would say African American, even though he's never.
He looked like Morgan
American.
Freeman.
He might have.
Or is it more like Cuba Gooding Jr.? I don't think that's right. I think he looked like somebody from Nazareth from that time, which was a Middle Easterner.
Well, what did a Middle Easterner look like back then? Because what we consider Middle Easterner now are Arabs. They weren't native to actually this part, so they could have looked very different.
Some of them were.
Some
of the Israelis were.
The Egyptians that are in Egypt now were not descendants of the ancient pyramid building Egyptians. So to say that this is what they would have looked like is kind of inaccurate. Because the people that are there now actually came from a different part of the world.
Do you believe in evolution?
Possibly.
So the people who lived here, when there really wasn't transport to up and move an entire community to a different place in the world, farther north of the equator or farther south, closer to the equator. The people that were living in this area were pretty much looked like a little bit lighter than Yemenites. Like,
what are you basing that on?
This is known. This is,
What are you basing this on?
I'm talking about people that looked. That had a skin tone fitting to where they were in relation to the equator. Farther south, closer to the equator, people had a darker skin tone.
Yeah. Okay.
So you understand where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think he was black, and I don't think he was white. I think he was Middle Easterner.
You don't think he was blonde with blue eyes and?
Well, that's the other option. Probably was.
Aryan Jesus.
Aryanese.
Oh, I said Aryan Jesus, but sure.
Aryan Jesus. Aryanese Jesus. That's correct.
All right, so let's get on to something that might be helpful for some Olims.
For Olims?
For Olims, yeah. Since this was supposed to be the focus of the show.
Yeah, it's
we
true.
just got lost in our welcome, in our hello to the show.
So, this is Jews in the Media. Thanks for tuning in.
Today we're going to talk about let's choosing a place to live in Israel.
There's nowhere to live.
There's lots of places to live. It's a very big little country.
I have a friend who's actually having a very hard time finding a place. He needs to find a new apartment. Not finding anything. But then I have other friends who are finding places, so I don't know where he's looking, where he's not finding. I don't know.
Well, it's a matter of personal preference. It's a matter of cost. It's a matter of his.
Yeah, I think he
what's okay for some people and what's not okay for others.
I think he's looking for a place with no neighbors or something with very specific terms in regards to the actual property itself. You know what floor and. If you're too nitpickety, then you're not going to find anything. But I've never really had a hard time finding a place.
Are these? I'm assuming your friends were based in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, living in Tel Aviv now.
Some people are willing to live in central Tel Aviv, North Tel Aviv. They're willing to go to South Tel Aviv. They'll live in Florentine. They'll live, in Nevetzet. They'll move wherever. Some people are like, oh no, I have to live in Basel. I have to live in this neighborhood. This is where my friend. This is where I want to be. It's close to my work. I
think that's more what it is.
And if you have very specific requirements, I must have a 2-bedroom with a big salon, and I want a balcony, and I want to have a parking spot.
Well, wait,
and
you said two bedrooms and a salon. How do you know? How do you know which is the room? And sometimes because you have to look for 3 rooms. So no, we don't have this in the U.S. You have to look for if you want 2 bedrooms and a salon, you're looking for 3 rooms. That's very important, and a lot of people don't know that.
Yes, in the United States, when you look for apartments, it goes by bedrooms. Okay, how many bedrooms does it have? In Israel, you go by the total number of rooms, which is generally bedrooms plus a living room, which they call a salon. Okay,
or
so
den
that's
or
what
whatever.
So if somebody says a 4-room apartment, that is generally 3 bedrooms and a salon. It doesn't count bed. It doesn't count like kitchen. The kitchen isn't counted as a room.
Yeah.
You can have a 2.5. If it's a small room, like let's say it's there's 3 rooms.
Sometimes
okay,
the
but
kitchen is part of one
of the rooms is really small. They'll consider that a 2.5 room. I've never heard of a 2.5 room in the States.
I've never seen that here.
My
half room.
I have a 2.5 room.
Bath.
I have a 2.5 room.
Really? It's listed as 2.5 rooms?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I don't know if it's if it's under a specific size, they consider it a half room, or if it's just a small room, they consider it a half room.
Not really a full bedroom, yeah.
Yeah, I've
no,
seen
it makes sense.
You go to Yad Shtaim and you look at it, you can see find 2.5 rooms.
I guess so. But I never had an issue. It's some of the requests on the landlord side are a little bit strange.
Well, hold on. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is finding an apartment. Okay, we're still talking about people are sitting there and they're waiting to get their plane ticket to get on the Nefesh B'Nefesh or however they're coming here, by whatever means they're coming to Israel. Okay, and they're thinking about where are they what area should they consider moving to? Okay, what are some of the things they should really think about? Okay,
well, that's also different because now where my apartment is now. Used to when I moved in, it was listed as Central Tel Aviv. Now, this is no longer Central Tel Aviv. This is 5 years ago. It was Central Tel Aviv, and now it's South Tel Aviv. So, what you may have known, as far as the areas of Tel Aviv. So Central is now closer to Bogoshov. Ben Yehuda Bogoshov is more of Central Tel Aviv now. South Tel Aviv is this area closer to Florentine, but not quite Florentine yet.
Oh.
Near the Yemenite quarter, the Kerem Temani.
This is interesting. This is interesting. Interesting information for someone who's looking for Tel Aviv. But not everyone is looking to come to Tel Aviv.
Well, I don't know any other areas, so I'm talking about what I know.
Well, I'm talking about just general parts of the country. If Tel Aviv or the center of the country is very important for in my opinion, for young people, singles. Okay.
Not a good place to raise a family.
Not necessarily
in
Tel Aviv. Okay,
absolutely
but
not.
I live outside of Tel Aviv. Okay, it's
by
a short
no means live in Tel Aviv.
No, it's a short 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
I'm outside of Tel Aviv. It's very close to drive and everything else. I'm just outside the city. And rent is a lot less expensive. It's much nicer, family-oriented area. But then again, if I was, let's say I came here and I had some money, or let's say I had I could do my job online or something like that. I mean, there's lots of people that work on the internet and they have their own businesses online, and so their general location doesn't necessarily so much matter. When I first came here, I lived in the Negev. Okay, I lived in Beersheba. The reason why I left Beersheba is because I couldn't find any work.
Well, nowadays it's easier to find because there's so much online.
There's a lot of work,
most of it is
but
freelance.
there's really not that high tech. They really don't have the call center. If you have to rely on your English, okay, like lots of people first moving here do. They need jobs, in call centers or working online in English, doing content writing or whatever it is they do. There's really not so much of that when you get out to the ends of the country. You really need to be based near Herzliya, Tel Aviv for these things. Okay, I don't really know about Haifa. What kind of, if they have lots of companies up there that are doing that kind of stuff.
There's been a few, but it's
I know Jerusalem has some, but it's nowhere near to the degree. If you're an English speaker and you really want work, it's much easier if you're based near Tel Aviv than in my opinion, any other part of the country. But if you have your own source of income and don't have to rely on or if your Hebrew is great and you can function in an office fluently in a Hebrew speaking office, then you might want to take advantage of one of the other parts of the country. Beersheba apartments are really cheap still. Okay. You can get a house for what you're going to get a small apartment for in this part of the country.
Now, if you're the type who's coming to Israel who wants to set up a business here, and you want English speakers, you'll find them in Beersheba. You'll find them in Haifa. You'll find them in all of these cities.
But to what degree?
Jerusalem.
Okay, if you move to Jerusalem, you're going to have a lot more English speakers than you are in Beersheba. Yes, there are some in Beersheba. Okay, but a lot of
there's a lot.
But you also have a very high
population.
I wouldn't call it a very big community. Okay,
no, it's not huge.
I have family that's in that community, and it's not very big. It's very huge Russian, very huge Ethiopian. General Israeli, but the actual English-speaking Anglo community, it's not that big. If you wanted to have a business that was really focusing on the Anglos, I would not choose to go to Beersheba.
However,
I would choose more to the center of the country, or even Jerusalem. Okay, maybe even more so in Jerusalem.
However, if you're starting up, because I'm sure there are some English-speaking jobs in Beersheba. There's got to be some. If there were more, there would be more of a draw to bring people down there. For people to go down there, for people to move to Beersheba. I had the opportunity to move to Haifa. I didn't because there's no work for me there. If there were work for me, I would be living in Haifa now probably.
Well, I would definitely never move to Haifa.
I like Haifa.
Personally, with all the hills and everything else, my times I've hung out and everything in Haifa, it's not the city for me.
It's really nice.
I've always enjoyed Tel Aviv. I enjoyed my time, on the kibbutz when we were in the north. Okay, kibbutz Knesset. But I hated Tiberia or Tiberias. Okay, hated it. Loved hanging out on the kibbutz. Loved going down to the beach. Hated going into town.
It was a boring city, but what did you hate? Actually, hate about it?
It was just hateful. It was just a shitty little dirty.
Did you not like it, or did you actually hate it? You had less than no preference.
I disliked going into town. I would go into town every so often to get a shawarma or some food, or if I had to do something. But I preferred not to go. I just didn't like it.
I just liked it was not a good city. It was boring.
It was not a place I wanted to go hang out and,
It was interesting to walk around. But no, there was nothing to do there. I didn't hate it though. Like I went there to get out to get out, because it was easy to get to. You could just call a tramp and get in just a few minutes.
I don't think they like to be called tramps, James. They're ladies of the evening.
Just driving up and down Highway 90.
Hey, whore, come here. Take me to town. Get on her back. That's right. She doesn't have a car. You have to get on her back, and she carries you.
On her. But no, I didn't hate Tveria. But I don't know that there's really.
I wouldn't want to live there. I don't like to visit there.
I don't think there's any Americans living there or any Anglos really. Not any. There are some, but
there's some on the kibbutz team near. But
no, but in Jerusalem there was IDT I think it was, which was a big call center.
Oh no, there's a lot of look. You can survive on just English in.
It's a difficult city to live in though, because on the weekends, it's dead.
Yeah, no, you don't want to. You don't want to be caught with no food in your house on a Friday night.
Yeah, just be prepared.
Oops! I slept in and forgot to go to the store.
That's happened. That's happened when I was living on Livnot to Libanot. When I was on the extended birthright program.
Sure.
I had forgotten a few times, and I was stuck without food.
One night, me and a buddy went. One Friday, we left the kibbutz at Tzelim, and we went to Jerusalem for the weekend. And he spent Friday night at his family's. But I had no place to stay. He didn't invite me. They didn't invite me. Whatever. So he's like, "Yeah, let's go to Jerusalem. I'm going to stay with my parents, not my parents, with some family. You find something to do, and I'll meet you after Shabbos." So I'm like, "Okay." So I found a hostel, the Arizona hostel, right at the bottom of Ben Yehuda Street.
Was it hostile?
It was very hostile. And it was a nice place. It was a shithole, but it was cheap. And so okay, but they didn't have any food, or there was no restaurant. There was nothing there. So Saturday morning, you fucking wake up and food would be nice. So I'll go down to the store. Everything. It's gotta be a store around here. So I'll just walk up this street. No, not around here. Walking down the fucking streets of Mayor Sharim, going, "Hello, is there anything open? Can I get a sandwich? Hello."
See, at this point, you're just burning fuel.
Just burning calories.
You just need to lay down and do nothing. Conserve.
Yes. All right.
Lay down in the middle of Mea Shearim.
I'm just gonna lay down here for now until Shabbos is. Oh, this was long before cell phones. I wound up finding this little hole in the wall store. It looked like it was like one of these
a hole in a wall.
It was literally it looked like it was one of these.
Was it covered by a poster of Rita Hayworth?
Jesus might have bought something in this place. It looked like it was that old. Okay,
did you get that reference?
It was literally just these giant stone with the big metal doors on the top. That you could tell has been there for 1,000 years or so, and they've put doors on it now, and
and it has 4,000 layers of paint.
Yes. So she had it was like a cigarette kiosk.
Painted more than the years.
And she had some salami sandwiches or whatever, right? I don't remember. It was 15, 20 shekels, but all I had was 100 shekels. And this was back in 90.
Country eats your 100 shekels. Nothing.
This was in 93. Okay, so actually 100 shekels was actually a little bit of money back then. Okay, but she couldn't break the 100. So I'm walking around.
How much was it?
I said 20 shekels, but no, that's what it would be like today. So it was probably like 10 shekels.
10 checks? So you just get 10 of them.
Shekels or something like that.
Get 15 of them.
So
just walking around with 15.
I'm going up to taxi drivers like, yo, can you break this 100? And they're like, I'll take you around the block. And then I'll give you like 80 shekels. I'm like, fuck you. I'm not paying 20 shekels for you to drive me around the block just so I can get change. It was like no.
What the fuck is that?
What is that? That's that's an Israeli taxi or probably an Arab taxi driver on a Saturday in Jerusalem. Have you dealt with taxi drivers in this country? They're all fucking thieves. Doesn't matter if they got a kippah on or if they got a fucking keffiyeh on. They're all fucking thieves.
I've never had a taxi driver with a keffiyeh.
I have, but it was in Egypt. Does that
count? Yes, I'm technically. Yes.
So it might have been in New York too, but I don't know. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I'm walking around. Right, the taxi drivers won't give me fucking money. I'm starving. Okay. Friday night, I had a bad migraine headache. Okay. The hostel has a club downstairs. So it was like
I lived in a place with a club downstairs.
Yeah, me too. So all night long it was like boom, 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 boom. My head is fucking pounding. Okay, I had no fucking no one had any aspirin. I didn't have any. It was so bad. Eventually, I got to sleep despite the fucking rave I was in the middle of in my room. I wake up the next day. I'm fucking starving and everything else. Right, I'm going through this deal to try and for. Long story short, I'm just walking up to every fucking person I could see in the street. Do you have change of 100? Do you have change of 100? I'm a stupid tourist running around waving 100 shekels, okay? In the middle of Jerusalem on a Saturday. And if you know Jerusalem on a Saturday, especially the area I was in, when you run into people, there's a, 75% chance they're Arab. Okay?
Okay.
So, woohoo! Stupid American with 100 in his hand. Okay, I got mugged. Now, I walked away. Laughing my ass off because I destroyed these two guys. But I didn't have any fucking change. I should have robbed them or something, gone through their pockets. But I still didn't get any. I never got change. I never ate.
And they took the 100?
No, I won. I beat the crap out of them. Pretty sure I ripped one of the guy's arms out of his socket, and I broke the other one's nose with my elbow. At one point, I realized I'd put myself into a bad position. I let the other guy get behind me. So now I was talking to one guy, and the other guy was standing behind me, and I said, shit, and he put his hand on my shoulder. I just bashed him in the elbow, and I grabbed the other guy's fucking arm. And tried to do my imitation of, like, Chewbacca. And just,
you should have robbed them.
That's what I'm saying. I should have, because I never ate. I eventually had to wait.
You've never eaten since then?
No, I'm very hungry.
Wow.
You have anything to eat?
You know Tony Vespa?
I've heard of. So
shameful plug.
No, but I wound up having to wait until after Shabbos was over to finally get some food.
Wow. So you were forced to fast.
I spent most of the day sitting on the street of Ben Yehuda Street, just waiting for Shabbos to end and for the shops to open up so I could get something to eat.
I feel
like a friend buddy of mine told me this joke, right? He says this guy's sitting there, the guy's sitting on a street corner waiting for a friend to show up, right? And he's just sitting there waiting. This is long before cell phones. He's got nothing to do, so he decides to pick his nose. He's taking the boogers and he's rolling them into little balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a couple hours later. His friend finally shows up and he's like, "You've been waiting long?" He's like, "No, not really." So my friend finally shows up, okay, after Shabbos, and he sees me sitting down. He's like, "Hey, you been waiting long?" I'm like, "No, not really." It's very funny.
I used to do that with rubber cement, because when you peel rubber cement, it looks like boogers.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to make big balls of rubber cement and like throw them at people.
Mm-hmm.
I found that hilarious.
Hilarious?
I laughed. I found it funny, at least.
I used to wait until kids.
Other people found it funny too.
I used to wait until kids were sitting down in their seat at school, and then I would yank the fucking chair out from under them and watch them fall back and nearly fall out the classroom window on the second story. That was funny.
I only did that once.
I got into a lot of trouble doing that.
I only did that once, and it was funny.
and took a bottle of Elmer's glue, poured it all over this girl's seat, and she sat in it. Got in a lot of trouble for that one too.
But she didn't get glued to the seat. Like,
No,
it wouldn't
no.
have dried.
No, she did not.
Just a wet
but my
mess,
parents had to
wet
pay
white
for new
mess.
pants.
They could have been cleaned.
I don't think so. I think the parents were. I don't remember.
I think that's just spite. Like nowadays, they would have sued for that. They would have sued you for putting the glue in the seat. But that's American, and I've noticed that's really known around the world as one of the traits indicative of Americans, because the rest of the world, they don't really sue as much. You know, somebody makes a mistake, but like if you advertise a product wrong in the States, you can sue and you can win for it.
And how does this help me find a place to live in Israel?
Well, how does your story about glue help somebody find a place to stay in Israel?
I don't remember. Somehow we were talking about Jerusalem and we got off track, I think.
Yeah, and we're still off track.
So anyway, you know, if my point was, if you're really young and you want to have a really good nightlife and social life, okay, if you're not religious and you're looking for things to do on Saturday and you're not going to have a car, in my opinion, you really do want to be in Tel Aviv. If you're a little older and you have a family and everything else, you might, you know, it depends on what your income, you know, on where your income is going to be. If you have a source of income that's not relying on a job in Israel, then, you know, you're freer to move about the country. The north is really nice. It gets a bit balmy there at times, but then so does the south, you know, depending on what time of year it is.
I'm yawning while you're talking about bombings in Israel.
Oh, bombings. What a big deal.
That's incredible in this country, though. I was in Jerusalem, and there was a bombing on Hillel Street years and years and years ago. This is actually 2 days after I got my first cell phone in Israel. But I'm there. We're listening to the radio, and I hear the bombing, and then we hear it on the radio, and we're riding around. You know, we're on the bus, and about 15 minutes later, we pull around Jaffa because the traffic was terrible. So we were waiting in traffic, and we pull around Jaffa, and there's a guy with blood on his face, waiting for the bus. The next day, and he got on a different bus, but the next day, back to normal.
But the guy had washed.
No, I'm talking about the general vibe, the atmosphere.
What do you think's gonna happen? The whole city's gonna shut down for a week because something happened? I mean,
that would happen in the U.S.
Believe it or not,
absolutely would happen in the U.S.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes,
nope.
I don't believe
Boston was open the day after the bombing. New York City was open after 9/11. Well, I mean, they had to get some power back on. I mean, there was issues that kept people out of a part of the city.
No, but
the rest of the city was open for business. There were security.
I'm not talking about things being open. I'm not talking about things being open. I'm talking about the air like that people feel. You know, New York was in trauma for weeks and weeks and weeks. The way people acted, the way people behaved.
After the last
it doesn't
war,
work that way.
I disagree to a specific point. First of all, Israelis have a bit more experience with it, so it does affect them less.
It's not just that they have more experience. It's we got to get on with our day. We got to get our shit done. We can't let this hold us back anymore.
When rockets were falling in the center of the country, when people in Tel Aviv for the first time since the 90s had to take shelter and everything else, I'm sorry, people were shell-shocked for a little while afterwards.
A day?
No, it was a couple of weeks. It was.
I don't recall it being more than a day or two.
No. It was a couple of weeks where people were shell-shocked and everything else, and before you could really see, not that things weren't still going on, people started going back to club, and everything got back to.
You're talking about the threat, or when there were bombings?
No, I mean afterwards, after the thing, and when it was over and everything else.
Wait, which thing? The first thing or the second thing?
Well, I want like I don't remember when it was, like 2009,
You
2010.
tell them about the thing?
2009, 2010, something like that. 11, the last big flare up we had with Gaza. When they started, it was a matter of fact, it was only one time we've had a war in Gaza when they were firing missiles into the center of the country.
We came back from it the next day.
Yes, no, it was absolutely. First of all, things went on.
Maybe you knew people who were still shell shocked. I didn't know any of those people.
Well, you also don't watch Israeli TV, and so you didn't see all the.
I don't need to see TV. I do not need to see TV to see what I see on my day-to-day walking around the city.
You're right.
The TV is going to show me a much different story because that's what sells. They're definitely going to sell you a different story.
Okay, you're right.
I saw what I see interacting with people on the fucking
streets. You had one experience.
Streets.
I had another experience. In my experience, people were not just,
No.
Back to
this
normal.
is your experience watching what the news wanted you to see.
No.
My experience is seeing what I observed.
No, I also saw what they were
own.
talking about on the news and everything else, but I
don't care what they say on the news.
Okay, you don't care about anything except for whatever you think.
No, I care about what I can see. I'm not listening to somebody else tell me what I feel about my city, about what I'm seeing with my own two fucking eyes. I see what I see. And I know what the better story is.
What I saw was a country that wasn't 100% back to normal in just one day.
I didn't say 100%.
What I saw were people that were still scared and cautious.
Somebody with the absolutes. I never said 100%.
You said like a day and everything was back to normal.
Yeah, people were going along and going about their day.
No, you're right. People were going about their day the next day during the thing. People come out of the shelter and then go back around their day. I'm not saying that people were hiding into their fucking houses for months. What I'm saying is that people were still shell shocked. It affected people.
I don't know that anybody was shell shocked.
People. Okay, you're right.
Shell shock. You know what shell shock is, though.
Yes, I do know what shell shock is.
I don't think they were shell shocked. So they were not in Nam. You know, in the trenches. That I call shell shock, where they're not able to operate. But people heard a boom, and what was that? That's not shell shock. That's being alert.
But
that's being aware.
I also realize that in your life and everything else, and that you're mostly dealing and interacting with people in their 20s and 30s and everything else. Okay, I'm also looking at parents and how they had to deal with children and how they had to deal with dealing with children having to be taken out of their schools and run to shelters and things. There was a lot more that was going on here than what actually you saw.
But I do know parents,
okay?
And none of them were really freaking out.
Did you ever have to pick a school based on whether or not they have a bomb shelter for your child?
That's a different thing. I think they all have to.
There was a lot of things that were going on outside of the bubble that you actually live in.
But you're talking about right after the issue. I'm not talking about finding a school. You're talking about months and years before.
I am talking about.
I don't know where you're going with this.
I am talking about there was a lot more.
We're talking about the days
and
following
things that were going on than what you
bombings.
I'm talking. Yes. I am talking about things that were going on. My child had to be taken from her school and it had to be closed down because they did not have a shelter.
Okay.
And they had to be taken to another place where they could have a shelter so that when the bombings came, which they did and the sirens came, they could run to the shelter.
That's not really indicative of shell shock, though.
These children were having
protective.
nightmares and remember, I had to wake up my child in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. to grab her screaming, "Run, run!" Because that's what you do. I have to wake her up when I'm still in my room so she can get up and get her shoes.
Okay.
Okay? This actually affected people a lot more than the group of people that you were interacting with, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I'm not saying that people were not affected by this.
Was a much wider range of people.
But you're saying that everyone was affected by this, and there was.
I didn't say everyone. What I said was
but
things did not go back to quote unquote normal. There was a lot of people, which is what I said, that were shell shocked and that were affected by this.
And had you been in the U.S., it would have been a much bigger deal.
They're less experienced from it. And to some degree, I don't.
But it's not just the experience; it's the Israeli spirit. It's the way Israelis are. Like
young children,
whatever's fucking happened to us, we got to move on. We got to get up about our day.
The children in New York were affected by it no more, no less than the children in Israel were, or that the children. Well, I don't want to say Syria because those.
I don't agree with that at all.
Because the children in Syria are probably affected by it a hell of a lot more. because it's to a much larger degree.
But they're also a lot more used to it using that.
Well, then if you want to look at it that way, then the children in New York should have been horribly scarred and terrified, and the children in
a lot of them were.
What the fuck is that town near Gaza?
Sderot
should be completely fine because it was happening every day.
No, again, you're confusing two different people.
I don't understand. You just said the Israelis should be used to it. So
It's
then the people in
not just
Sderot
that.
should be fine and not shell-shocked, right? Because they should be used to it. Maybe I misunderstood you.
Can I talk now?
I don't know. Can you?
I can.
It sounds
I'd
like
like
you can.
I'd like to be able to.
Nobody's stopping you.
You are.
I'm really not. Go ahead and talk.
Stop. The Americans have a different way of looking at things. Generally speaking, I'm not talking about just this. Well, this goes into, and we'll not talk about diplomacy, but
I wish Miriam was online because she was in New York City. She was right there. She got glass in her hair on 9/11. She would
shut
be able
the
to
fuck
give you
up
an
for a
answer
second.
to this.
The Israeli spirit is one that we need to move forward. Whatever happens, we just move forward. We don't get bogged down with whatever tragedy. We move forward. We get up about our day. And I don't think it has to do with, I don't think it's only based on our experience and that we're used to it. It's in our nature. You see some guy on the street and you're screaming at him, and screaming and shouting. You see him again, you're best friends. It doesn't matter. There's really not. Israelis don't really hold grudges. It's weird in that way, but you can get up in your best friend's face and scream your head off at him, and give him a big hug afterwards. Like it doesn't work that way in the U.S. Not to that degree. It's a different mindset. People are more open. They really speak their mind. We don't have the personal space bubble here as much. And that's one thing that you will have to get used to living in this country, is that you don't have the personal space bubble. You get up into the front seat in the cab and you're talking to the cab driver, and you this does not happen. You don't touch another person in the US. But you can do that, and it just comes naturally, and some the way Moroccans speak with one another, it's much more physical, and Yemenites as well are much more direct. They don't bottle things up in the same way. They let it out and they move forward. And I think I like that about Israel. That's one thing that I really love about this country, is that people are so close. Even to be cheesy about it, saying like you're saying, when you're greeting somebody, you don't say "What's up, man?" It's "What's up, bro" or "brother." And that stems. I feel that stems from the brotherhood ship that the Jewish people feel towards one another. It's a much more tight knit, close knit. Everybody is there for each other, even if they pretend that they don't give a shit about you. When push comes to shove, the country really works, really buckles down, and everybody is out to help each other, and I think that's incredible. But yeah.
So what is it that you think happened in New York that was so different after 9/11? Because I saw a city that came together and that helped everybody and everything else. It was amazing in New York City after 9/11.
But it was more the drive behind it. It was a drive of fear. Here it was more a drive of like I'm here to help you out. But what I saw, and I wasn't in New York, but what I saw, and even in Kansas City, I see people, and they were just terrified afterwards. Well, what's going to happen now? What is it? What's coming next? And we need to get bomb shelters. We need to relax. Like, we don't relax.
If Miriam were online, because she was there, she was literally right there, glass in her hair, on the scene. Okay, had to walk home over the Brooklyn Bridge and everything else. And I guarantee she would absolutely, positively disagree with everything you just said, because I've heard her say it before. Okay? from my experience afterwards, New Yorkers truly came together. And it wasn't out of fear. There was anger. There was anger at what happened, okay? But it wasn't fear. It was fuck you, okay? It was people helping each other to try and get back and to rebuild and to come, and to be a community, and people fucking giving, to stores opening up and giving whatever to the rescue workers and to the construction crews that were digging everything else.
Those are the Jews.
It was an amazing thing. I totally disagree with you. Were people shell-shocked? Were people scared and everything else? Absolutely.
Well, that's actually what we were talking about to begin with.
Any
was
city
the shell
would be
shock
like
and the terror afterwards.
But absolutely, people remember something. For a long period of time, Tel Aviv area was safe. Rockets fell in the north.
Well, I remember the Scuds back in the.
But again, that was one
90s?
time for a very short period of time.
It was.
Okay, it wasn't uncommon for rockets to fall. Hold on. For rockets to come from Lebanon to hit in the north. Okay, in the Haifa in those areas. Okay, it wasn't. It became not uncommon for rockets to come into Sderot and to the cities around there. But Tel Aviv was this was considered rocket safe zone for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, one day, it wasn't. One day, sirens started going off in Tel Aviv.
You're talking about the Scuds?
No, I'm not talking about Scuds. Scuds were in the 90s. I'm talking about in 2010.
Oh,
okay? 2011, whatever the hell the last big war was with Gaza. When I had already moved out of Tel Aviv. So it was like 2010, 11, something. When did I get married? 2000 and was that 2008? I guess 2008. So I guess it had to be 2008. Oh, Shelley was alive. 2010. Yeah, 2010, 2011. There was a war. I don't remember the exact dates, but somewhere around there. Okay, and for the first time since the 90s, okay, not counting suicide bombings, this was the first time, because with the suicide bombings, nobody was running to shelters. But this was the first time that people actually had to take cover. They were giving out gas masks again because they didn't know what was going on and everything else. And I totally disagree with your assessment. People were they went around there, they went back to work.
I didn't say that they didn't tie together. We were talking about the shell shock. We were talking about the fear afterwards. And the fear afterwards was much stronger in the U.S. than they ever have been in Israel.
I disagree, because for the most part, with the exception of New York, no one in the United States had to deal with that.
Okay, so you didn't know what was going on in the rest of the United States, and I do.
Well,
and there was fear everywhere. People were terrified that like nukes were coming. Like they had I don't know about nukes. They had no idea what was going on, because by design, it was planned that way, that people wouldn't know what was going on. Because if you're fearful, you're going to keep watching the news. And they're making more money from it. So was it the news's fault that people were fearful? I didn't actually really think about that until just now, but that actually kind of does make sense. They don't really do that here. They don't really harp on it. They play sad songs on the radio. Back to normal the next day. In the U.S., breaking news: is the world coming to an end? On CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and all the news stations.
Do you watch Israeli news? No, because you just made a whole big thing about why would you watch what other people say when you have your own.
I've seen Israeli news.
So you don't regularly watch Israeli news.
I've seen Israeli news.
So you don't regularly watch Israeli news, is what I'm asking you. No, you don't. Do you? No, because you just told me.
After these events?
No. Do you?
I'm talking.
I want you to listen to what I'm saying.
I'm talking about after these events.
Do you
You're changing the subject.
Watch Israeli?
You're changing the subject right now.
How am I? I'm just asking you a simple question. Do you
I don't regularly watch American news.
I didn't ask you. I just asked you one question.
No, I
Please
don't.
Just answer that one question. No. You don't regularly read Israeli newspapers, do you?
No.
Okay. So you don't know if they're actually regularly talking about these scare tactics that they use in the United States. Are we coming to... Because always, constantly see articles and news reports about how war is coming. War, we're getting ready for war around the. Are we going to be at war this summer with Hezbollah? Is it a new war? The same thing. Maybe not to the same degree.
You're reading the English news?
Maybe not to. No, I get it. I watch it with Galia, and she explains it to me.
Okay.
I see the picture
because it wasn't like that. It didn't used to be like that.
Didn't used to be like that in the United States either.
No, it was like that for a very long time.
It might be more in the United States, but then again, we have more news channels in the United States.
But I remember I remember watching the news with my roommates after the attacks overhead, after the last Iron Dome defense thing, and the next day it was back to normal. Back to the normal, whatever other scare tactics, but it wasn't this thing that happened and just harping on it and going over it in 400,000 different ways. They moved on to the next story. They don't move on to the next story in the U.S. They milk it as much as possible.
After 9/11, the news reports and everything else were about fear mongering and warmongering.
But in the U.S., they really milk these stories as much as they can.
When there's a big attack and these things going on, what's the first thing you start seeing about in the news? Whoa, war! People start screaming, "We want it! Why haven't we attacked? Why would we do go push attack and kill, destroy, nuke?" But it's to the same degree. To a different degree, it is
exactly. It's to a different degree. All right. Well, this has been an hour and 25 minutes.
It's a smaller country. We have
funny.
less news things. We have, Yes, I think it's been very helpful to the Olim. We established where they should live.
Actually, I guess that's kind of true. So following the messages up here, they
can't see
the
your
title
hand.
here. What do we talk about? Who knows? Well, you just found out what we talked about.
Because we've talked about it.
Because we talked about it. If you didn't know, trust us.
Didn't start. If you don't know what we talked about, then rewind. I guess you don't have to rewind. Just move the little thing
button.
back. Just start it over.
It's been Stephen James.
Subscribe, like, share.
All of those.
And spay and
we're gonna be
your friends.
Yes. We're going to be putting our Twitters up here probably in the next one. But you can find me at JM Shulkind. And if you have yours up yet, I don't know.
I don't know what the hell my Twitter name is.
I think your Twitter name is what your Facebook was.
It might be.
No, that's Skype.
That's not the right button at all. All right, leave me alone. It was right next to the.
I was watching your thumb going for the Skype button and
Skype
wanted
at
to
work.
see it going.
I hit it a million times a
tap
day.
Tap this. And
yes.
it says up there.
Yeah, I am at Benzona 420.
All right. So that's him.
Yeah, give me a follow and you can send me a message. And
I've actually been becoming a little bit more active because I get pissed off at stupid things. So, and there's a lot of stupid things. So, anyway, yeah, next time we will talk more about other things.
Yes. Till next week.
Oh no, my mouse isn't working anymore.
All right, stop this shit and let's get drunk. You're supposed to end it right there.